What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's FPL Gameweek 32 preview time. So we're going to go through all your questions and topics that you've put to me, go through a few of them kind of in a bit more detail, and then we'll do a bit of a Q&A at the end as well. I'm just looking here, there's lots of stuff to go through. So there's double and blank updates, not for Game Week 32. Beyond that, obviously we're going to talk about Spurs. They have got a double this week. Chelsea defence, Neto replacements in the Q&A. There's double Liverpool defence, Man City players, Bruno, Greenwood, lots to cover. So please do give it a like if you enjoy it and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you watch all the way through so you can get all the possible info you need before Game Week 32. And let's jump into it. So first up, we've got a few kind of double and blank updates. Now, none of this is set in stone, right? And I will say this, if this is your first season playing FPL, it's not usually this complicated. Often there are more than just one double game week, right, in a season, but it's usually a lot more predictable and not so spread out and not so short term, because obviously there's so many fixture rearrangements and stuff this season due to COVID and just other stuff as well, like the lack of pre-season or whatever it might be. It's been absolutely crazy, right? And it's not going to finish just yet. So apart from the double game we've got this week, we know that some teams still have fixtures to be rearranged, so Southampton versus Palace and Everton versus Villa in particular. But there's all this talk about them trying to make sure that every team can have fans in a home game, like in the stadium, for at least one match before the end of the season. I think that's the current status anyway. Now, Ben, if you're not following him, I've mentioned him a lot before, to be honest. Go and follow him. It's at Ben Credden that you can see on the screen. And now he's saying that basically to fit in every ground having home fans at least once before the end of the season. Plus, obviously, there's FA Cup as well, and that will depend on what happens between Leicester, Southampton, and Chelsea, Man City. Games could be moved from Game Week 36 to 35, which means we potentially have a double game week in 35 for some teams, not all teams, and we're going to have some blank game weeks in 36. So I think if you've got your free hit left and you can get through game week 33, it's probably better to save it for this at this point. I don't know if there's enough upside on game week 33 to use it, especially if you've already converted to kind of Liverpool players and maybe Leicester players as well, because they got good fixtures. So do Man United. If you've got those bases covered, you probably don't need to free hit in 33. Now, in this tweet, he goes into which teams might play or which fixtures could be moved, and a lot of it depends on if City win, if Chelsea win, if Leicester win, etc., etc. And he's also saying if it becomes a double game week, then Villa versus Everton is likely to move into game week 35. So if you're like me, I've got no Man City players. Whether or not we'd want them at that point, because there will be probably more rest due to kind of FA Cup, Champions League and stuff, that's to be discussed closer to the time. But I wouldn't have any. I've got two Chelsea players. I'm not necessarily happy with one of them. Southampton, I don't have any. And to be honest, Southampton versus Fulham, so basically the fixtures on the right are currently what's there. So Southampton play Liverpool, but they could also get Fulham or Leeds. So maybe even worth dipping into like a Danny Ings or someone. Villa versus Everton, I've only got one player. So, and like I said, Southampton versus Crystal Palace, I don't have that either. But these are the teams that could go into that, and obviously then some of them will blank in 35. Now, Villa or Everton, if they go into 35 as a double, they can also blank in game week 36. So they're actually a little bit easier to carry through if you don't have a free hit. And I think he was saying if they don't get moved there, it'll probably get moved to game week 37. So there's potentially still a lot of changes that are going to happen. But I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. The problem really is if you've not got a free hit, there's not too much planning you can do before game week 32. What would be good this week is if you can save a transfer, if you don't need to make one, then going into game week 33 armed with more info, we could get the fixture rearrangements once the FA Cup matches are finished, and they happen after the game week 32 deadline, but before the game week 33 one. Potentially we might know a bit more. So if you could save a transfer this week, it would be good. I appreciate that a lot of people want to jump on like Lingard, Iheanacho, Liverpool players, and so I wouldn't say 100% don't do it. If you've got a good upgrade you can make for this week, definitely do it. But if you've got that luxury of not having to make one, it's probably a good week not to do it. And if you've got your free hit, I would probably recommend trying not to use it in 33. There's more chaos coming is basically what I'm trying to say. So going on from the doubles and blanks, we do have a double game week this week that we should talk about briefly. I'm sure you've been thinking about this for a little while anyway. And it kind of goes on nicely because if there's going to be another double game week, the question that will get asked is, should I be saving my triple captain? So for those of you that still have it, I've used mine. I actually used it on Harry Kane in the last double game week. It didn't go as well as I would hope, but to be honest, if you watch both games, how he didn't come out with more points, I will never know. I'm still a little bit bitter about it, if you can't tell, but it is what it is. I'm used to failing with the triple captainship, but you might be asking yourself, should I save it for that one? Now, if you go and find the thread on Twitter that Ben linked, and I'm not going to show it here because you can just go and find it if you want to have a look at it. But basically, he goes into detail about which fixtures could move and what combos that would mean. So either, if Leicester had a double, which two teams could they be playing? Now, if you go and have a look off memory, there's no combination of a really good team who aren't likely to be rotated having two really good fixtures. There's like one good fixture and one poor one. Like, I just think at this point, Spurs have got Everton away and Southampton at home in game week 32. It ain't going to get much better than that, to be completely honest with you. I don't think Everton are as good at defensively as a lot of people still seem to think. I'm not saying they're a team that will get smashed 3 or 4-0, but Spurs will score, I think. And then Southampton are just looking really poor at the moment, and their defensive numbers haven't been great over the season either. So I just don't see why you wouldn't, to be honest. I don't think there's going to be a better option than Harry Kane. Absolutely nailed. Pretty much going to play both games and on penalties too. And to be honest, he's been so good this season, right? What more do I need to say to kind of convince him? And I'm not necessarily trying to convince people, but there's just no reason not to use it. I know there's going to be a discussion around, well, everyone else is going to captain him, so the gain isn't as big. I don't look at it like that. I know there is an argument to be made to try and use it on a differential, because if you absolutely nail it, yes, there's potentially bigger upside. I don't want to get into that discussion because I don't really view it like that, but I know why people do. But let's say he gets 20 points this week, and that's probably, on the upper side of what he could do. You use your triple captain. Okay, everyone else gets 40 points because they've captained him too. You get 60, so you get an extra 20 points. I think if you're expecting more than that from the triple captain, your kind of hopes and wishes for that chip are probably too high. So I think it makes absolute sense. I'm going to go a bit more detail into Kane versus Son in the captaincy video. Yes, I'm still going to do a captaincy video this week, but it'll probably be a bit shorter than normal. The other thing that some people have asked about is there a chance that Kane or Son, if I'm going to use my triple captain, gets rotated? Now, there has to be a chance because they do have an EFL Cup final. And obviously, it's probably the weakest trophy you can win out of all the the domestic cups in England, plus obviously Champions League, Europa League. But it would be a cup for Spurs, which would be pretty big. It would be a cup for Mourinho, and I'm sure he would like to rub it in the face of everyone else that he's actually won something at Spurs, given kind of how much stick he's probably getting right now. I think if you look at the rest periods, right, they've got no FA Cup to worry about, no Europa League either now. So they play this Friday, then they have a four-day full rest, and then they play again on the 21st. So that's their 2 game week 32 games. Then it's 3 days rest before the EFL Cup final. And then it's another, what is that? Like another 5 days rest, I think. Or maybe, 4 full days rest then until game week 34. Now, the top 4 position for them isn't, sorry, I'm going to type while I'm recording. The top 4 position for them isn't completely out of reach. They're on 49 points. Top 4 is on 55. So it's still possible. They're having to hope that West Ham keep dropping points, or start dropping points, I should say, and Leicester drop some points as well. But it is possible. Mourinho can't just give up on that. I just think Kane just plays every game. I just don't see it. He's not going to get rested, I don't think. We might see in the second game that they get their minutes managed. Let's say they happen to be 2 or 3-0 up against Southampton. I'm not saying that's definitely what's going to happen, but it could. Then, maybe they start to get subbed off after like 70, which we don't usually see with these two. But that could happen. But the only thing with Son, I guess, is he's not long back from injury. So possibly. But I just don't see it. They need to win these games. And also, you don't want to go into game week 32, that second fixture, resting these players, and then they come off the back of a loss. Then they've got to go and play Man City, right? Best team of the league. So I feel like they both play. Just really quickly on the third Spurs player, one thing I would consider is Spurs and pretty much every other team, apart from obviously Man City and the other couple that blank in 33, they have 2 fixtures over the next 2 game weeks. So if you bring in Lucas Moura I'm just going to use it as an example, right? Let's say you bring him in for Jesse Lingard. Well, Lucas Moura does have 2 fixtures this week, but he only has 1 next week, right? Whereas Lingard has one this week, one next week. So they both have 2 games over 2 game weeks. Now, obviously, you can make gains by getting a player in with 2 fixtures and then transfer him out for a player that has 1 fixture, therefore getting 3 over the next 2. But then you've got to use like 2 transfers at least, probably. Now, if you're free hitting, it's different. If you're using your wild card soon, like in 33, to get rid of all the players that are blanking, that's obviously completely different as well. But those are the things you got to think about. It's not just getting in a double game week player and getting an extra fixture, because they then lose that fixture in 33. If you've got the bench to cover for it, great. But you have to be serious, like kind of. You have to look at your team and decide, exactly which players you're playing and are you happy with them, and how much is getting in a Reguilon or getting in a Lucas Moura going to affect your team. They are probably the 2 players that I would target. Maybe Lloris as well if you happen to have a goalkeeper spot, but I wouldn't want to be using transfers there. And then you have to make sure that your other keeper's playing in 33, and then you've got more money spread around your 2 goalkeepers. It just doesn't seem worth it. Reguilon I do like. I've spoken about him already this week. And I think the only other attacker I would consider is Lucas Moura. But just consider what you're going to do then for 33. They do have Sheffield United in 34 and Leeds in 35. So they do have good fixtures to come. So if you can get through game week 33, I don't think it's too bad getting a 3rd player. But it's not the end of the world if you just go in with 1 or 2, Kane and Son being the obvious targets. So actually, I was surprised about how many people asked me about Chelsea defence, but I guess because they haven't kept a clean sheet in the last 2, there's a few worries. Should we bring them in? What should we do with them type questions. I think this is the perfect example of not letting the outcome, i.e. what happens in a match, what happens with your FPL points, dictate future decisions, right? Now, I'm going to use XG in this example because I find it useful and I think it really does help in why you shouldn't be annoyed that you've got Chelsea players in. Now, some people have had them for a while. Right? I got Rudiger in game week 27. I think some people had him even before that. And obviously, a lot of people jumped on in game week 30 for West Brom or 31 on wildcard for Crystal Palace, and then ahead of Brighton, West Ham, Fulham, which is a really good set of fixtures. Now, some people are now going to think, well, Chelsea aren't as good as they are. They had mistakes in them. Of course, this was going to come. But first of all, game week 30, West Brom, they went down to 10 men. Really difficult to keep a clean sheet. And basically really difficult to keep the goals down. Like conceding 5 goals is a massive anomaly. They've just played Porto over 2 legs and only conceded 1 goal, right? And then you look at the last game week. So I had a look, game week 31, I've written it on screen. The expected goals between the 2 teams was 2.5 to Chelsea and 0.1 to Crystal Palace, right? So 9 times out of 10, Crystal Palace don't score a goal in that game. Now, obviously, I'm not sat here, and by the way, anyone that uses expected data seriously doesn't think that it's like this 100% predictor where if the numbers say this, therefore this will happen. It's football, right? It's why we love it, because stuff doesn't always go how we think, right? But because Palace score from 1 shot, that doesn't mean that Chelsea defence is bad. That just means some things like that happen in football. I would still be looking at it that if you've got them, Brighton, West Ham and Fulham are probably decent enough fixtures, right? Brighton is tough, but they don't score a huge amount of goals. West Ham have got a few injuries. Maybe that will hurt them a bit. I think they've been doing fine, by the way, and we're going to talk about West Ham players in a minute. But obviously against Chelsea, it's a much tougher task. And then Fulham at home, for me, again, that sounds like one of those games where it's almost a guaranteed clean sheet. Yes, Fulham are fighting for their lives, etc., but it's still good. The problem now for me, if you're not already on the Chelsea defence, is the longer you leave it, the more the kind of upside diminishes. Because now there's only 3 good fixtures before they play Man City away and Arsenal at home. Now, can they get clean sheets in those games? Absolutely they can. But obviously the chances are lessened because they're playing probably better teams. Now, okay, I don't want to get into a massive discussion of whether West Ham attack is better than Arsenal. Maybe they should both be green. Maybe they should both be orange. But you get what I'm trying to say. They're still in the Champions League, so that's not going to help either necessarily with rotation. They've also got FA Cup semi-final. If they were to beat Man City, obviously that's then another fixture down the line that they've got to play as well. And obviously there are some rotation concerns. I own Rudiger. I know he's not absolutely nailed to play every single game. Marcus Alonso, just avoid him at this point. Like, I think it's very clear that he is not in the first 11 plans for Tuchel. It looks like it's definitely Chilwell. Doesn't mean Alonso won't start against Fulham or won't start against Brighton because of rotation, but it's just not worth the risk for me. The reason I got him in is because the upside when he plays is massive. but he's just not a good pick, right? And I knew that when I got him, and I've been punished for it, rightly so. Azpilicueta has played every game. He's the one you want to go for, and he could get clean sheets for the fixtures after Arsenal, right? It's Leicester and Villa, so there is potential for clean sheets after game week 34, but I just think it's lessened. So for me, if you've not already got them, if your defence is looking good for the next few weeks, I would just probably ignore them at this point. I certainly wouldn't be getting Mendy in ahead of Martinez, I don't think. I would have possibly done it in 30 or 31. The longer you leave it, the less the reward is there, because Martinez has got a double coming up. He's got Palace, Everton and West Brom still to play, so you can probably keep him. And so yeah, I would probably just ignore. If you've got a spare transfer and it fits in with your kind of rotation of your defenders, where you can maybe play them for the next 3 and then rotate them out, like Rudiger's still a good price. I absolutely still think they're a good option for your team. But yeah, like I said at the start, I just think this is a really good kind of showing of how outcomes shouldn't be the basis for all your future decisions. Bringing in Chelsea defenders was a good decision. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Okay, let's talk about Neto replacements. Now, as I said on yesterday's video, if you own Neto or you bought him in a wildcard, it's just super unlucky. These things happen. I had the same thing pretty much with Tierney. Got 2 1-pointers and then he's injured for their really good run of fixtures. It is what it is, right? And you just try not to tilt and make a good decision about the replacement. Now, the one thing I would say when you're choosing this replacement, if you're replacing him this week, and by the way, if you're on a wildcard, if you were on a wildcard, last week, you probably have a good squad where you don't need to get rid of him this week. So don't feel like you have to force him out. You may have a better player to play. Maybe it's better to roll a transfer and deal with it next week, whatever it might be. The players I've put on this list, they are not necessarily all under his price. Some of them are over, right? So Lingard definitely is. He's actually the most expensive player on this list at 6.5. I didn't want to go too much further. Like, I've seen some people tell me that I asked the other day on Twitter what to do with Gundogan, and they said that they would transfer him straight to Son. That's obviously a ridiculous amount of money in the bank, right? So I don't know what everyone's got, but I thought Lingard at 6.5 million, which is what he's gone up to now, was probably the height of where I wanted to talk about. Maddison, Greenwood and stuff, all options as well, depending on, you know, what you want to spend. Now, just to show you just to talk about what's on screen, the number that you see is their expected goals and expected assists per 90 minutes combined, right? And then obviously on the right hand side is the fixtures. Now, straight away, the 3 players that stand out are Lingard and Bowen, obviously both for West Ham, pretty good fixtures. The toughest fixture they have is Chelsea. Brighton, not necessarily that easy either for scoring goals, but Newcastle, Burnley and Everton, pretty decent. And Arsenal's fixtures we know about. That's why so many people went for kind of Rob Holding on wildcards, or Leno or someone like that. They also play Chelsea, although a little bit later on. Before that, they have Fulham, Everton, Newcastle, West Brom. Really good fixtures. Now, with the numbers, right, that's per 90 minutes. So straight away, right, and as with everything with stats, you have to put some context behind it. Lingard at 0.38, guaranteed starts, guaranteed minutes, right? He pretty much plays, I think, kind of 90 minutes every single game. I'm actually going to double check just to be absolutely sure I'm not talking rubbish. Yeah, he's played 90 minutes the last 3. He's only twice since he's played games for West Ham has he not played 90, and he played 81 and 86. So that's really good, right? Whereas Bowen, even when Antonio's not been there, he hasn't played the full amount of 90 minutes that often. So although he's only slightly behind Jesse Lingard, there's obviously a slight minutes issue there. And also, I think with a lot of these players, we're waiting on further news to see if they're good options. So Bowen, for example, if Antonio was out for another 4 to 6 weeks, then Bowen's going to get a good amount of minutes. And then suddenly he is a good option for only like 5.9 million and is probably being a little bit overlooked. If Antonio's back soon, then obviously the amount of starts and minutes that Bowen gets is going to be reduced. And therefore, if you've got the money, Lingard is probably a better option. A similar thing with Saka, right? So if I have a look at him, I know he only played like 69 minutes in the last game, but obviously he had a little bit of an injury. From what I've seen, he's available for the Europa League. And usually, yeah, it does get 90 minutes. There's only a few games where he's had kind of 73, 68, but most of the starts he's had is 90. So you look at his stats, they're actually slightly better than Lingard over a longer period of time as well. And larger sample sizes are good. What I would say about Lingard's stats is they're very similar to his Man United ones. So it's not like he hasn't done this before. Obviously, at Man United, he got limited minutes as well. But Saka is not someone to overlook. If he plays in the Europa League, I would worry a little bit about a start in the next game, but I don't think... I think depending on what happens in the Europa League game for Arsenal will depend on what my thoughts are on Saka. If Arsenal get knocked out, I think Saka becomes a really good option. If they go through, then I worry about the amount of extra games he's going to have to play, how much like he's going to be running to the ground and stuff like that, because he's still young as well. And I don't think Arteta wanted to play him as much as he has. I think he wanted to rest him a bit more. The problem is Arsenal haven't been great in attack, and Saka's been one of the best players. And it's very difficult to rest your best players, right? So I think if Arsenal get knocked out of the Europa League, they've got nothing else to worry about then apart from the league. I think Saka becomes a good option. I genuinely think he could rival Lingard over kind of a 4 to 5 game week period, right? So something to think about. I'm not saying ignore Lingard, I'm just saying consider Saka. With the rest, I just think there's slightly worse numbers. Pereira for West Brom 0.32 is the worst on the list, but he does have penalties, which is worth considering. He's on free kicks as well. Fixtures are a bit mixed though. Trossard the same. That Sheffield United away Leeds at home fixture in 33 and 34 looks really good, but outside of that, it's pretty poor. So I probably wouldn't consider him. Rafinha has the best numbers on the list, right? I think he's the best option on this list, to be honest. All things equal, like minutes and fixtures. But obviously, he has Liverpool, Man United, and Spurs in the next 3. Brighton's not even that easy either. Then it's Burnley. I think if you haven't already got Rafinha, you just wait until game week 36, probably just to bring him back. Obviously, if you've not got the money to go up to like a Bowen or a Lingard, then I would definitely consider Saka or Rafinha instead. Obviously, West Brom for Pereira, they are on a little bit of a charge now. But whether or not they're really going to keep that up against these teams they're facing, I'm not quite convinced about that. But I guess only time will tell. So you could take a punt there. Really quickly on the numbers as well, this is expected goals and expected assists combined. With Lingard, most of his threat comes from goals, which is good because that's where we're getting the more points. With pretty much every single other player, it's kind of split half and half. So Rafinha will be like 27 and 27, 0.27 and 0.27. It's not quite like that, but it's around there. Like Saka is 0.28 for XG. The rest is made up by assists. So that's one thing I like about Lingard as well. So I think right now the pick of the list is probably Lingard. Bowen if you haven't got enough money for Lingard. And I would definitely consider Saka if Arsenal get knocked out of the Europa League. And he comes through the game fit and all well and all that usual good stuff. So as always, just going to go through everything else a little bit like a Q&A at the end as well, just to cover off some of the other things that I saw being asked to talk about. So one of them was double Liverpool defence, which I thought was interesting. I do think Liverpool's fixtures are just good, both from a defensive and an attacking point of view. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. That being said, I obviously do have an opinion of which the best way to go is. And I just think Salah looks so good right now. I think with premiums, you have to kind of pick and choose at the right time based on fixtures, form, expected data, whatever it might be, which ones to have. And right now, Kane and Salah would be my top 2. I'm going to talk about Bruno Fernandes in a sec. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have another one like a Fernandes or a Son or whoever it might be, but I think Salah fixtures are just that good right now. You could consider him as a captain in 33, for example, against Newcastle. So I think he has to be in there. I think then, obviously, I don't think you're going to go, for most people, triple up on attack. So, you know, Firmino, Jota, Mane, you're not going to have 2 of those plus Salah, right? So you have one defender. Then it's a choice then between another defender or another midfielder. Now, if I think about most teams set up now with like Wolves defence, Arsenal defence, Chelsea defence, maybe a Liverpool defender, you could have Luke Shaw in there. There's lots of defender options. I don't know if it's worth putting Robertson and Trent, because realistically, they're the 2 you want. You could go Robertson and Kabak, or Robertson and Phillips, and obviously there's good value in that. Or sorry, you could, you know what I mean. You could go for one of Trent or Robertson plus one of Kabak or Phillips, right, to have some value. But I just think Jota's value is so good as well. Like if I've just talked about kind of underlying stats for the Neto replacements. If you go and look up Salah and Jota on FBref, Jota's very close to Salah. Now, obviously his minutes, like chances, of how many he's going to play is a little bit lower. So you can probably keep Salah a little bit ahead of him. But for the price, his value just seems too good to be true. But, like defence, we do also have quite a few midfield options right now. Son, Salah, maybe some people are still holding on to Man City, Lingard, Jota, etc. Maybe you haven't actually got a spot for that Jota pick, and therefore you do go double Liverpool defence. I don't think at the moment double defence is the kind of key to our team that it maybe has been over the last season or two. I don't think it's a bad idea. My preference and my opinion is just that 2 attackers is better when I look at the fixtures. Like, I think they're good for both. But like Leeds this week, Newcastle next week, there's goals in those. Southampton conceding so many. West Brom, look, they might have been improving a bit, but this is Liverpool we're talking about. Burnley away, Palace at home to end the season as well. They're fighting for top 4. I'm just not sure I would spend the money on Trent and Robertson, and they are the two you'd really want. But that's just my opinion. I'm not saying it's wrong to do that. It's just the way I would play it. It's the way I have played it, right? So obviously I'm going to lean that way. Keeping Man City players, I'm going to keep this really brief because we talked about them last week. Champions League tonight will factor a lot into this. If they go out of the Champions League, then suddenly they've only got 3 extra matches to play. The FA Cup semi-final, the final if they go through, the FA Cup one that is, and then the League Cup final as well. And obviously once that's done, that competition is over as well. So if they go out of the Champions League, there is possibly a case to keep them because rotation will come down. But as we saw last week, even Diaz got rested, right? I do think there is a chance against Villa that we see a bit more of a balanced team where he doesn't make quite as many changes. Maybe one of De Bruyne or Gundogan plays, or maybe they both play to get the job done early and then sub them and kind of manage their minutes. But I just think while they're in all these competitions, you're going to have this stress every single week. I don't think it's the worst idea to start looking to get rid. But if you had Diaz, the chances he gets another rest against Villa seems really low to me. He's not a bad hold, I don't think. What to do with Bruno, right? So interestingly, I tweeted out the other day about how he was out of form. I'm not going to try and find the tweet now because I won't find it quickly. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek, right? Because everyone talks about form, and most people, when they talk about form, they are talking purely about recent points scored, and they'll create a narrative around it. So the narrative for Fernandes will be, over the last 6 games, he's had 1 penalty, 1 assist, no open play goals. To me, the way most people use form, that means he's out of form. Now, what should you do with him? In my opinion, from now to the rest of the season, I haven't changed his opinion for weeks, by the way, Salah is a better option. So if there's a choice between the two, I would go Salah. If you've got Salah and if you've got Kane, now for me is not the time to be thinking about like taking out Bruno Fernandes, like using a transfer to get rid of him. You've already got Kane captain this week. Next week, you've already got Salah as an option. If you've got Fernandes as well, you've basically got the 2 players that are probably going to be captain the most. And he's got Burnley at home and Leeds away. They are 2 good fixtures. I would probably keep him. I've spoken about his stats a lot this season, right? And how his open play goal threat is not that high. It's just not, right? Like I have a look here. It's per 90. It's 0.21 for the season. So that's nearly as bad, and not as bad, but it's nearly the same kind of numbers as most of those 6 million-ish mids that I spoke about. His expected assists are fairly high, 0.44. He's a good option. He's nailed. He's on penalties. So I'm not saying he's a bad option at all. And I think you should look to keep him for Burnley and Leeds. After that, it's Liverpool. It's going to be difficult. Villa, Leicester, Fulham and Wolves to finish the season. They're kind of mixed fixtures. They're not really easy. They're not really difficult either. So basically, long and the short is, I think Salah and Kane for me are the best 2 premiums right now due to nailedness pretty much and not having so much fixture congestion, especially if Liverpool get knocked out of the Champions League, by the way. But if you've got Fernandes as well, then I don't think you get rid before Burnley and Leeds. You just reassess after that. Simple as that. I wouldn't look to force him out my team. I just think there's potentially better premium options, and I've said that for weeks. I haven't changed my mind for all the reasons I just listed. Stats, fixtures, nailed on this, etc. If you've got Salah, Kane and Fernandes, you're laughing. Lastly, Mason Greenwood, is he a good option? So one of the takeaways I had from my decisions around Lingard is potentially I do basically Rafinha's stats and Grealish's stats are really good. Like Grealish's expected goal involvement over the season, right? XG per 90, expected assist per 90 is exactly the same as Fernandes. So for a 7.5 million midfielder, that is huge value. He doesn't have penalties, of course, but we know he's absolutely nailed, etc., etc. And I think Rafinha's stats, as I showed just a minute ago, they're really good too, right? So they've kind of spoiled me, and I think because of them, I found it difficult to assess cheaper players. And I still think, look, Jesse Lingard has scored way more points than he probably would over a normal 9-point spell or a 9-game spell. But his stats actually aren't that bad, right? And neither are Bowen's and neither are Mason Greenwood's. Now, Mason Greenwood's probably someone that I've overlooked a bit as well. I have a look at his goal threat. It's 0.31 per 90, 0.09 expected assists. So overall, it's 0.4. So he's in and around the kind of Lingard and Rafinha stats, but for a little bit more money. I do think over the next 2 fixtures they're good. Burnley at home, Leeds away. The big problem with him is minutes, right? Because he didn't start the last game. He didn't start in 27 either against Man City. He played 90 versus West Ham and Brighton. So he started 2 games over the last 4. Cavani's fit, so he's going to play up front most of the time anyway. Rashford can play on the left, which means Greenwood plays on the right. But as we saw, Pogba, if we want to get Pogba and Fernandes and McTominay and Fred or whoever it might be in the team, Pogba has to play more to the left. Therefore, Rashford gets moved to the right, and there's no space for Greenwood. So if he starts Burnley at home and Leeds away, which there's a chance he does, then I think he's a good option for the money, but it's not guaranteed. And so you have to weigh up whether you want to take that risk. I've seen some people say, look at his form from last year, but he did something similar to Lingard. He went on this crazy run, which wasn't sustainable, and this season he just hasn't matched that anywhere near. Like, he's only scored 3 goals this season, from like double the minutes that Lingard's played, and yet when I look at his expected data, it's actually higher than it was last season. So that kind of shows you the kind of streak that he went on. He was on a hot streak, it's ended, and he hasn't really got back to any kind of form like that. Obviously, he's in and out of the team. It doesn't help. He's very young. He will probably be a really good player in the future, especially if he maybe moves up front. We're not going to get into that right now. But yes, short answer is, even though I've just done a long answer, I do think he's a good option for the next 2 if he starts, but those starts are not guaranteed. So there we go. That is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Quite a long one, but hopefully lots of useful info in there. If you did enjoy it, do give it a like and hit subscribe if you're new around here as well. I'll be back tomorrow with team selection. I've actually already done my team reveal on Patreon, so if you want to check that out, there is a link in the description below. That's available at the bottom tier if you want to check that out. But obviously, I will talk about it on tomorrow's video. Then we'll have captaincy. Yes, I am going to do a very short captaincy video just to keep the consistency, you know. And then we'll have deadline stream on Friday as well. So make sure you've hit that notification bell. If you do want to check out Patreon, link in the description below. Thank you to everybody that has already signed up. You're absolute legends. Thank you for the support, and big shout out to Arthur J and Anselm C. If I've pronounced that wrong, let me know via Patreon message, and I do apologize if I have. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. Good luck with decisions. Enjoy the Champions League tonight, and I'll see you again soon.